A Hell's Angel found two frozen twins, holding hands. What he discovered about their parents shocked everyone. The storm hit hard and fast. One minute the sky was a flat gray sheet. The next, the snow came sideways, thick and mean, the kind that turned a highway into a ghost road in under an hour. The wind pushed against everything. Signs shook on their posts. Trees bent low like they were bowing down. And right through the middle of all of it rode Cole Walker. He leaned into the wind and kept going. His black leather vest was pulled tight across his broad chest, the Hell's Angel patch on the back barely visible under the layer of white collecting on his shoulders. His thick beard was full of snow. His gloved hands gripped the handlebars with the steady confidence of a man who had ridden through worse and never blinked. He was 45 years old, built like a wall. Tattoos crawled up his neck and across his hands. The kind of man people noticed from across a parking lot and then quietly moved away from. But nobody was watching right now. There was nobody out here at all. Just Cole. Just the storm. Just the long, empty stretch of highway cutting through the hills outside of Millhaven. Before you continue listening, please let me know where in the world are you watching from today. Now back to the story. He had taken this road 100 times. It connected nothing important to nothing important, which was exactly why he liked it. No traffic, no noise except the engine beneath him and the wind above him. Out here, he did not have to be anything to anybody. He could just be a man on a bike, moving from one place to the next. That was the life he had built. Quiet, solitary, clean of complications. He told himself he preferred it that way. The saddlebags strapped behind him held the usual things he kept on long rides: a wool blanket, a first aid kit, a small bag of road tools, a box of granola bars. His old club brothers used to tease him about it. Jake Morrison once said Cole packed like a man who was always expecting to find trouble. Cole never argued with that. He had found trouble enough times to know it was better to be ready. More than once those bags had saved somebody. A woman with 2 flat tires on a dark stretch of I-40. A teenager whose car had gone into a ditch on a rainy night. An old man who had run out of gas 3 miles from the nearest station. Cole stopped every time, fixed what he could, gave what he had, then rode on before anyone could make too big a deal out of it. He never told anyone. It was not about credit. It was just what you did. At least it was what he did. The highway curved around a long bend, and through the wall of white, the shape of a building came into view. Low and flat, sitting just off the road on a cracked gravel lot. A roadside diner that had been closed for years. The windows were dark. The sign above the door had lost half its letters. The parking lot was buried under fresh snow. Not a single tire track in sight. Cole barely glanced at it. Then something made him look again. He did not know what it was exactly. Just a feeling. The kind that started at the base of your neck and moved slow and cold down your spine. He had learned a long time ago not to ignore that feeling. He eased off the throttle. He squinted through the snow. There, just beside the diner's front door. 2 small shapes, low to the ground, pressed close together against the building's wall. Cole pulled his bike off the road and killed the engine. He climbed off and moved fast across the lot, his boots punching through the snow with every step. They were children. 2 of them. A boy and a girl, small and slight, maybe 8 years old. Their clothes were thin and soaked through. Their faces were pale as the snow around them. Their lips had gone blue. And they were holding hands. The girl's fingers were wrapped tight around the boy's. Even half frozen, even barely conscious, neither one had let go. Cole dropped to his knees in the snow in front of them. "Hey!" His voice came out rough and low. Hey, I got you. I'm right here. Neither child responded with words, but the girl's eyes opened just a little. Glassy and exhausted, she looked at him, at his leather vest, at his face, and she did not look afraid. That hit Cole somewhere deep. He stripped off his vest and then yanked his heavy flannel overshirt off his back, leaving only a thin thermal layer against the cold. He wrapped the shirt around the girl first, then pulled the vest over the boy's shoulders. He moved back to his bike in 3 long strides and pulled both blankets from the saddlebag. He wrapped them tight, one around each child. Then he picked them up, one in each arm, and carried them toward the diner. The front door was locked, solid. Cole moved around the side until he found a window where the old latch had rusted through. He worked it open with one hand, laid both children gently against the outside wall for just a moment, and climbed through. Then he reached back and lifted them inside, one at a time, slow and careful. Inside it was cold, but it was out of the wind. And out of the wind was the difference between surviving and not. Cole set them down together on the dusty floor near the far wall, kept them wrapped in the blankets, and knelt close. He pressed the back of his hand gently to each of their cheeks. Cold. Too cold. "Stay with me," he said. "Both of you, just stay with me." Cole worked fast. He moved back through the window and pulled everything from his saddlebags. The first aid kit, the extra blanket he kept rolled at the bottom, the granola bars, a small emergency candle, and a book of matches he had carried so long he had forgotten they were there. He climbed back inside and got to work. The diner still had a few old booths along the wall. The vinyl seats were cracked and dusty, but they were off the cold floor. Cole moved the children carefully, one at a time, sliding them into the corner booth where 2 walls met. He had learned years ago that corners held heat better, less exposure, less wind finding its way through. He tucked the second blanket beneath them so the cold floor could not pull the warmth from their bodies. Then he pulled the first blanket tight around both of them together. They were still holding hands. Even when he moved them, even when he shifted their arms to get the blanket into place, their fingers stayed locked. He lit the emergency candle and set it on the table in front of them. It was not much, a small, quiet flame, but it pushed back a little of the dark, and it gave off just enough warmth to feel like something. Cole pulled out his phone and called for help. The signal was weak, but it connected. He kept his voice steady and low as he gave the location. The dispatcher told him emergency services would be there as fast as the storm allowed. He did not ask how long that meant. He already knew the answer. He sat down across from the children and leaned forward with his elbows on the table, watching them closely. The boy's eyes were closed. "Hey." Cole reached across and tapped the boy's arm gently. "None of that. Open your eyes for me." The boy's lashes fluttered. He opened his eyes slowly, dark brown, confused, exhausted. "Good," Cole said. "Keep them open. Can you do that?" The boy gave the smallest nod. Cole looked at the girl. She was already watching him. Her eyes were a lighter brown, almost golden in the candle's glow. There was something in her expression that Cole could not quite name. Not fear. Not even confusion, really. More like she was trying to figure something out. "You cold?" he asked her. "Yes," she whispered. Her voice was thin as paper. "It's going to get warmer," he said. "I promise you that." He opened the granola bars and broke them into small pieces. He set a few pieces in front of each child. "Small bites?" he said. "Eat slow." The boy reached for a piece without being told twice. The girl took one and chewed it carefully, her eyes still on Cole. "What are your names?" Cole asked. The boy swallowed. "Noah." "Lily," the girl said. "Okay." Cole nodded. I'm Cole. You're safe now, Lily. You too, Noah. You understand me? Noah looked down at the granola bar in his hand. His jaw was tight. He was trying hard not to cry, and Cole could see exactly how much effort that was costing him. You did good, Cole said quietly. Whatever got you here, you held on. That took guts. The boy looked up. Something in his face shifted just slightly, like a knot loosening. They sat like that for a long time. Cole kept them talking when he could. Simple things. He asked Noah if he had ever seen a storm that big before. He asked Lily if she was feeling any warmer. He kept his voice calm and even, the same way he talked to a frightened animal or a person in shock. Low and steady. Nothing urgent. Just a voice saying, "You are not alone." The candle burned quietly between them. Outside, the storm howled. Then, through the dark and the wind, came the distant flash of red and blue lights cutting through the snow. Cole stood and moved to the broken window, waving his arm until a beam of light found him. He heard boots crunching across the lot, voices calling out. He moved back to the booth and knelt down beside the children. "They're here," he said. "Help is here." Lily's eyes were growing heavy now. The warmth was finally reaching her, and her body was letting itself rest. But before her eyes closed all the way, she looked at Cole with that same steady, searching expression she had worn since she first saw him. "Our mom and dad told us," she murmured. Her voice was barely above a breath. Cole leaned closer. "Told you what, sweetheart?" Noah's eyes opened again, too, like he had been waiting to say this, like it had been sitting in him the whole time. "They said a man wearing a motorcycle jacket would find us," Noah said quietly. "They said he would keep us safe." The door burst open then. Emergency responders flooded in with lights and gear and voices that filled the room. Cole straightened up and stepped back to give them room, his heart hammering in his chest in a way it had not done in years. He stood very still. He did not move until he was sure both children were in good hands. Even then, he stayed close. He answered every question the responders asked. He pointed to the supplies he had used. He explained what he had found and when. But in the back of his mind, one thing kept turning over and over like an engine that would not quiet down. Their parents had known. Someone had told these frozen, frightened children that a man in a motorcycle jacket was coming, and Cole had absolutely no idea why. By morning, the storm had settled into a heavy gray stillness. The snow had stopped falling, but it lay deep across everything. The roads, the rooftops, the empty lot outside the old diner where tire tracks and boot prints had already been photographed and measured by the time the sun came up. Cole stood near his motorcycle on the edge of the lot, his breath rising in small white clouds. They had let him keep it there overnight while the scene was processed. He had not slept. He had sat in the back of an ambulance for a while, answered questions, signed something on a clipboard. Then he had leaned against the outside wall of the diner in the cold and waited for morning without really knowing why. He just did not feel like leaving. The town of Harlow was not a big place. Word moved fast in small towns. It always did. By the time pale winter light broke over the tree line, a small crowd had already gathered at the edge of the lot. Maybe 15 people at first. Then more. They stood behind the yellow tape the officers had stretched across the entrance. Coats pulled tight, breath fogging, eyes moving from the diner to Cole and back again. He could feel them watching. He had felt that his whole life. The kind of watching that had nothing to do with curiosity and everything to do with judgment. He was used to it. That did not mean it stopped landing somewhere tender. A woman in a red coat leaned close to the man beside her and whispered something. The man glanced at Cole and then looked away quickly when Cole met his eyes. A younger woman had her phone up, taking pictures. Cole looked down at his boots. "Mr. Walker." He turned. A police officer was walking toward him across the packed snow. Young guy, maybe early 30s, with a serious face and a notepad already open in his gloved hand. Behind him came an older officer, a woman with silver at her temples and a calm, measured way of moving that told Cole she had been doing this a long time. "I am Officer Briggs," the woman said. "This is Officer Tate. We need to ask you some follow-up questions." "Sure," Cole said. They moved him to the side of a patrol car, away from the crowd. Not inside it, just beside it. Cole noticed that. It was a small thing, but it mattered. Officer Briggs clicked her pen. "You said last night you did not know the children." "That is correct." "You had never seen them before?" "No. But they told the paramedics their parents said a man in a motorcycle jacket would find them." She paused. "You understand how that sounds?" "I do," Cole said. "So help me understand it," she said. Cole looked at her steadily. "I cannot explain it. Not yet. I found them outside that door. They were nearly frozen. I got them warm, and I called it in. That is everything I know." Officer Tate scribbled something on his pad. "You have any connection to the Carter family? Daniel or Emily Carter?" Cole went still on the inside. He kept his face quiet. The name did not fully land right away. It floated there for a second, just out of reach. Daniel. Emily. He had met a lot of people over the years, too many to hold on to all of them. But something about those names scratched at a distant corner of his memory. Something old. Something from a long time ago. "I am not sure," Cole said honestly. "The name sounds like it might be familiar, but I cannot tell you how." Briggs studied him for a long moment. She was good at that, letting silence do the work. "We will be in touch," she finally said. Cole nodded and watched them walk back toward the building. He turned and looked at the crowd again. More people now. Someone had made a sign, though they were holding it low enough that Cole could only catch part of the words. Something about children. Something about danger. He looked at those faces. Worried faces. Angry faces. Faces that had already decided who he was. He thought about Noah's voice in the dark of that diner. Quiet and certain. They said he would keep us safe. Cole pulled his jacket tighter and looked back at the diner door. He did not know why the parents had chosen him. He did not know what they knew about him, or what they believed he could do. He did not know if they were alive or if they were gone. But those two kids were somewhere warm right now, because of him. And they were waiting for answers that only he could go looking for. He made a quiet decision right there in the cold, with the crowd watching and the officers writing their notes and the whole town already making up its mind about him. He was going to find out why. And whatever those parents had believed about him when they made that plan, he was going to make sure they were right. The police station in Harlow was small and smelled like old coffee and copy paper. Cole pushed through the front door just after 9 in the morning. A young officer at the front desk looked up and went a little still. That happened sometimes. Cole was used to it. He set his hands flat on the counter so they were visible and spoke calmly. "I am Cole Walker. Officer Briggs asked me to come in." The young officer nodded slowly and picked up his phone. A few minutes later, Briggs appeared through a side door and waved Cole back. She led him down a short hallway and into a small room with a table, 2 chairs, and a whiteboard on the wall. A manila folder sat on the table. A printed photograph was clipped to the front of it. "Sit down," she said. Cole sat. Briggs opened the folder and slid a photograph across the table. Daniel and Emily Carter, ages 31 and 30, married 9 years, 2 children, Lily and Noah, both 8. She tapped the photo. You said the name sounded familiar. I want you to look at this and tell me if the faces do. Cole looked down at the photograph. It was a family photo. A Christmas picture, maybe. There was a small tree in the background with white lights. Daniel Carter was tall and lean, with dark eyes and an easy smile. Emily Carter stood beside him, one hand on each of the twins' shoulders, her face bright and warm. The kids were grinning wide enough to show missing teeth. Cole stared at it for a long moment. The faces were older than what he remembered. Fuller. The woman had shorter hair now. The man had filled out through the shoulders. But something about them pulled at him. Something about the line of the man's jaw. The particular way the woman was smiling, like she meant it all the way down. "Take your time," Briggs said. Cole leaned forward slightly. He looked at Daniel's eyes, and then it came. Not all at once. It came the way things do when they have been buried a long time. Slow at first, then faster, like watching ice crack open on a spring river. A different road, a different winter, though not as bad as this one. He had been coming back from a run, alone, on a stretch of highway about 40 miles east of Harlow. It was nearly dark. He had seen a car pulled off to the shoulder with the hood up, steam rising in the cold air. He almost kept going. He stopped. The man standing beside the car had been young. Early 20s, thin jacket for the weather. He had a baby on his hip, wrapped in a blanket, and he was trying to look like he had everything under control. He did not. A young woman sat in the passenger seat with the door open, her feet on the ground, watching Cole pull up with wide, tired eyes. The car had a cracked radiator hose. Simple fix if you had the right supplies. Cole had them. He always carried a basic repair kit. He had fixed it in 20 minutes in the dark, on his knees in the gravel. Then he noticed the baby crying softly. Noticed the woman digging through a bag with nothing much in it. Noticed the man's face doing that particular thing faces do when a person is trying very hard not to look afraid. Cole had reached into his jacket pocket. He remembered now. He sat back in the chair and looked at Briggs. "I know them," he said quietly. Briggs did not move. "Go on." "It was a long time ago. 8, maybe 9 years. He looked down at the photograph again, at Daniel's face, at Emily's warm smile. "They were broken down on a highway east of here. Cold night. They had a baby with them." He paused. I stopped and helped them. The room was very quiet. Cole looked at the twins in the photo. 2 grinning 8-year-old kids with missing teeth and white Christmas lights behind them. The baby on Daniel's hip that night. It had not been one baby. It had been 2. The call came at 2:30 in the afternoon. Cole was sitting in the waiting room of the station when Briggs walked out with her phone still in her hand and her face doing something complicated. Not bad news? Not good news either. The kind of look a person gets when something unexpected has just landed in their lap. "They found the Carter's vehicle," she said, "about 60 miles east, off a logging road." Cole stood up. "No sign of Daniel or Emily," Briggs added quickly, "but the car was not empty." She paused. There was a letter. They drove out together in Briggs' patrol car. The logging road was barely a road at all, more like a suggestion cut into the trees. Snow had filled the ruts and smoothed everything flat and white. Another officer had already marked the area with yellow tape that snapped in the cold wind. The Carter's car was a dark blue sedan. It had pulled off into a narrow gap between 2 pine trees, almost like it had been hidden on purpose. The windshield was thick with snow. The tires were half buried. Cole stood back while Briggs and the other officer worked. He watched them photograph the inside of the car, bag the contents of the back seat, and carefully remove a plain white envelope from the glove compartment. The envelope had been sealed. On the front, in neat handwriting, were 5 words. "Open if we don't return." Briggs pulled on a pair of thin gloves and opened it carefully. She unfolded 2 pages of handwritten paper and read in silence. Her expression shifted as her eyes moved down the page. Something around her jaw went tight, then softer. She looked up at Cole. "You need to read this," she said. He walked over, and she held the pages out to him. Cole read slowly. The letter was written in Emily's handwriting. He could tell because the words were careful and even, like someone who had thought a long time before putting pen to paper. Daniel had signed at the bottom, his name large and slightly unsteady, like a man writing something he hoped would never need to be read. It started with the children. "If you are reading this, then something has gone wrong. Our children, Lily and Noah, are safe. We left them at the old diner on Route 9. Please go to them first." Then it explained everything. Richard Hale, the property dispute, the threats, the unsigned legal documents that showed up without warning. The pressure that had been building for months, quiet and steady, like water working through a crack in a wall. Daniel and Emily had not simply run. They had gone to find proof. There was a document, a real one, that Hale had buried somewhere in a records office 2 counties over. A document that would show the property had always belonged to the Carter family, free and clear. They had gone to find it and bring it back before Hale could push the case further. They had been afraid they might not make it home. So they had made a plan. Cole read that part twice. "We left the children where they would be found. We chose that diner because it sits on the old highway that Cole Walker still rides. We know his route. We have watched for him for years, trying to find the right moment to thank him. We knew if anyone would stop, it would be him." Cole stopped reading for a second. He looked out at the snow-covered trees. The wind moved through the branches. Everything was very still. He looked back down at the letter. "Years ago, when we had nothing, Cole Walker stopped on a dark road and fixed our car and fed our children and gave us money he never asked for back. He connected Daniel with work when we had no idea how we would survive. Because of that one night, our whole lives changed. Emily finished nursing school. Daniel built his business. We became the family we always hoped we could be. We never forgot what he did. We never stopped being grateful. If something happens to us, Cole Walker is the only person we trust with our children, not because he is perfect, because he stayed." Cole folded the letter carefully and handed it back to Briggs. He did not say anything for a moment. Neither did she. Then her radio crackled, and she stepped away to answer it. Cole stood beside the buried car in the white silence of the trees, and he thought about a dark road and a young man with a baby on his hip, trying very hard not to look afraid. He had not known. All these years, he had not known. By evening, word had spread through Harlow the way word always does in a small town, fast and quiet and everywhere at once. People heard that a letter had been found. They heard what it said. They heard that Daniel and Emily Carter had not left their children with a stranger. They had left them with the one person they trusted most. The feared biker. The man people crossed the street to avoid. The man some had accused of being connected to the children's disappearance just days before. Cole Walker. The Carters had chosen Cole Walker. Cole read the second page slower than the first. His breath made small clouds in the cold air. The trees stood quiet all around him. The yellow tape snapped once in the wind, and then went still. Emily had written this part in shorter sentences, like she was running out of time even while sitting at a table somewhere warm, like she knew every word had to count. We did not make this decision quickly. We talked about it for weeks. We went through every person we knew. Family, friends, neighbors. We thought about all of them. Every time we came back to Cole. Cole shifted his weight. The snow crunched softly under his boot. Here is what we need you to know. Richard Hale has been pressuring us for almost a year. He wants the land our house sits on. His lawyers found an old filing error in the county records. They are using it to claim the property was never officially transferred to Daniel's family when his grandfather passed. It is not true. We have always owned this land, but the document that proves it was moved. We believe Hale paid someone in the records office to bury it. We found out where it is. It is sitting in a filing archive 2 counties over, in Millbrook. If we can get there and pull that document before Hale's lawyers file their next motion, we can stop him. We have to try. Cole turned the page slightly, angling it toward the gray afternoon light. We know this is dangerous. Hale has people watching us. We have seen the same truck parked on our road 3 times in 1 week. We cannot go to the police yet because we have no proof of anything except the legal pressure, and that is not a crime on its own. So we made a plan. We made sure the children would be safe first. We left Lily and Noah at the diner on Route 9 with enough food and warm clothes for several hours. We left them a note explaining where they were going and telling them not to be afraid. We told them that a man in a motorcycle jacket would find them. We told them his name. Cole stopped there. He thought about Lily's voice in the diner, small and steady, and somehow sure of itself. Mom and Dad said a man wearing a motorcycle jacket would find us. She had not been afraid of him. Not really. Not in the way most people were afraid of him. She had looked at him like she already knew him, like she had been told a story about him, and he had matched the picture. Because she had been told a story about him. He kept reading. We told them Cole Walker would take care of them. We told them that if anyone tried to take them somewhere they did not feel safe, they should ask for Cole by name. We told them to trust him. We know this is a lot to place on one person. We know you did not ask for this. But we have spent years looking for the right moment to find you again and tell you what your kindness meant to us. We never found it, and now we are out of time. Cole, you saved our family once without even knowing it. You stopped on a dark road and you stayed. You did not have to. You just did. We are asking you to stay again. If something has happened to us, please protect our children. Please find out what Hale has done. The proof is in Millbrook in the County Archive building on Fletcher Street. Room 4, Filing Cabinet 7. The folder will be labeled with Daniel's grandfather's name. Robert James Carter. That document is the truth, and the truth is the only thing that can stop him. The last lines were written in Daniel's hand, steadier than his signature at the bottom, like he had taken a breath before writing them. We chose you because you are the only person who ever treated us like we mattered. Take care of our kids, Cole. We will find our way back to them. We promise. Cole stood very still. The cold had settled deep into his hands, and he had not noticed until now. He folded the pages along their original creases, gently, like they were something that could break. He handed them back to Briggs without a word. She took them carefully. They went after Hale, Cole said. His voice was quiet. Alone. Briggs nodded. And nobody knew. Nobody knew, she confirmed. Cole looked back at the buried car. The snow had smoothed everything over, hidden the tracks, made it look like the car had always been there, like nothing unusual had happened at all. But something had happened. A man and a woman had made a desperate plan to protect their family. They had pointed that plan at one person and trusted it completely. They had pointed it at him. Cole's apartment above the garage was not meant for children. That was the first thing he thought when he pushed the door open and the twins stepped inside. The space was small and plain. A workbench ran along one wall, covered in tools and spare parts and old magazines. A single couch sat near the window with a blanket thrown over the back. The kitchen had one mug on the counter and a coffee maker that had seen better days. The walls were bare except for a calendar from 2 years ago and a framed photograph of his old club riding through the mountains. No color anywhere. No warmth that a child would recognize. Lily stepped in first. She looked around slowly, taking everything in the way she seemed to take in everything. Quietly. Carefully. Like she was reading a book that did not have pictures yet. Noah followed close behind her. His eyes went straight to the workbench, to the tools laid out in a row. His hands stayed at his sides, but Cole could see he wanted to touch them. "It is not much," Cole said. He set their bags down near the couch. "But it is warm." Lily nodded. "It smells like oil," she said. "Yeah," Cole said. "Sorry about that." "I like it," she said. "Dad's shop smells like oil too." Cole did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing and went to check the thermostat. He turned the heat up higher than he ever usually ran it. Then he stood in the middle of his own kitchen and tried to remember if he had any food that an 8-year-old would actually eat. He opened the refrigerator. It was not encouraging. There was leftover chili from 3 days ago, half a block of cheese, 2 eggs, and a carton of orange juice that was probably still good. He opened the freezer. A frozen pizza sat wedged in the back behind a bag of ice. He pulled it out and held it up. "Pizza okay?" Noah's face changed completely. "Yes, please." Cole almost smiled. He burned the edges slightly because he forgot to watch the timer. He found it by smell, rather than by the sound of any alarm going off. He cut it into small squares the way he vaguely remembered seeing someone do once, and set the plate on the low coffee table in front of the couch. The twins sat cross-legged and ate without needing to be asked twice. Cole sat on the far end of the couch with a cup of coffee and watched them eat. He felt strangely out of place in his own home, like the apartment had been rearranged without anyone moving the furniture. After the plate was empty, Noah leaned back against the couch cushions and closed his eyes. He was asleep in less than 2 minutes. Just gone. Like a light switched off. Cole pulled the blanket down from the back of the couch and draped it over him. He moved quietly. He was good at quiet. Lily was still awake. She sat with her knees pulled up to her chest, watching Cole with those steady brown eyes of hers. "You do not have to stay up," Cole said. "I know," she said, but she did not close her eyes. Cole sat back down. He wrapped both hands around his mug. A long moment passed between them. Comfortable, somehow. Like neither of them needed to fill the silence with anything. Then Lily said, "Everyone in town thinks you are scary." Cole looked at her. "I know." "But I do not think you are," she said. She said it simply, like it was just a fact she was reporting. "I think you're kind." Cole looked down at his mug. "What makes you say that?" She looked at him like the answer was the most obvious thing in the world. "Because you stayed," she said. "When we needed you, you stayed. That is what kind people do." Cole felt something shift in his chest. Something quiet and old and long buried. He set his mug down on the table. He looked at the 2 sleeping and half-sleeping children in his apartment. The 2 kids who had been pointed at him like an arrow by 2 people who believed in him before he believed in himself. He thought about Daniel's handwriting. Steady. Sure. Take care of our kids, Cole. We will find our way back to them. I will, he said quietly, just to the room, just to the promise that had been handed to him in a folded letter on a cold afternoon. I will keep them safe. Both of them. He meant every word. Cole was not a morning person. He never had been. Most days he was up by 6, but up did not mean ready. It meant coffee first and everything else second. But that morning, he heard small feet on the floor before the sun was fully up. He opened one eye from the armchair where he had slept. Lily was standing in the kitchen, looking at the coffee maker like she was trying to figure out a puzzle. Noah was right beside her, studying the refrigerator with the same serious expression he gave everything. Cole sat up slowly. His back protested. He rubbed his face. Morning, he said. Both twins turned at the same time. Good morning, Lily said. Noah gave a small nod. Cole pushed himself up from the chair and crossed the kitchen. He filled the coffee maker and got it going, then opened the refrigerator and stared at it the same way Noah had. 2 eggs, the leftover chili, a heel of bread in a plastic bag. He was going to need groceries. He scrambled the eggs and toasted the bread and sliced the last of the cheese into thin strips. It was not much of a breakfast. He arranged it on 2 plates and set them on the coffee table. Sorry, he said. I need to go shopping. Lily looked at her plate. This is fine, she said. She picked up a piece of toast and took a bite. Thank you. Noah was already eating. Cole stood with his coffee and watched them for a moment. Then he thought about what the day actually needed. He had no idea what grade 8-year-olds were in. He did not know if the school would even take them in without paperwork. He did not know what kind of school supplies they needed, or if they had any with them. He dug through their bags carefully while they ate, setting things out on the workbench. 2 sets of clothes each, a small notebook with a broken spine, 3 crayons without wrappers, a library book with a dragon on the cover, and at the very bottom of Lily's bag, wrapped in a sock, a small music box with a painted blue lid. One of the hinges was broken. The lid would not stay up on its own. He set it aside gently and kept looking. At the bottom of Noah's bag was a bicycle tire pump and a folded piece of paper with a drawing on it. A bicycle, carefully sketched in pencil with little details on the wheels and handlebars. Cole unfolded it slowly. That is my bike, Noah said from behind him. Cole turned around. Noah was standing close, watching him. We had to leave it, Noah said. His voice was quiet. Back at the house. What happened to it? Cole asked. The back tire was flat, Noah said. Dad was going to fix it, but then... He stopped. He looked at the floor. Cole nodded slowly. He did not push for more. He spent the morning on the phone. He called the school. He explained the situation as plainly as he could, and the secretary was surprisingly kind. She told him to bring the children in the following Monday, and they would sort out the enrollment together. He made a grocery run, while Jake from the club sat with the twins. When he came back, the refrigerator looked like a refrigerator again. That afternoon, while Lily sat reading her dragon book on the couch, Cole took the small music box to his workbench. He found a hinge the right size in a tin of spare parts. He worked slowly and carefully, his big hands moving with more gentleness than most people would have expected from them. When he lowered the lid and it held steady, he wound the small key on the bottom. A soft melody played out into the quiet room. Lily looked up from her book. Her eyes went wide. She crossed the room and stood beside him, listening. You fixed it, she whispered. Needed a new hinge, Cole said. Easy fix. She looked up at him. Thank you, Cole, He handed it to her, and she held it in both hands like it was something precious. Because it was. The next morning, Noah stood outside beside Cole's motorcycle, looking restless. Cole studied him for a moment, then went back inside. He came out carrying an old bicycle from the storage room below the garage. It needed work. The chain was loose, one brake pad was worn down, and the back tire was nearly flat. But the frame was solid. He set it down in front of Noah. "You know how to use a wrench?" Noah blinked, then something in his face lit up like a match striking. "Dad showed me." "Good," Cole said. He held out a wrench. "Then help me." They worked side by side in the cold morning air. Cole talked through each step, and Noah followed along, focused and careful. When they pumped the tire full and the bicycle stood ready, Noah climbed on without hesitating. He rode a slow loop around the parking lot. Then a faster one. Then he came back, grinning, breathless, his cheeks red from the cold. Cole watched him from the garage doorway. He had not planned on any of this. The scrambled eggs, the music box, the bicycle in the cold morning air. But standing there watching Noah ride, with the sound of that small melody still turning somewhere in the back of his mind, Cole felt something he had not felt in a very long time. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. That evening, after the twins were asleep, Cole sat down at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold and a cardboard box in front of him. The box had come from the police. It was the things recovered from Daniel and Emily's vehicle. Personal items. Nothing that counted as evidence anymore, so they had released it to Cole since he was listed in the letter. He opened it slowly. There were 2 wallets, a phone with a cracked screen that would not turn on, a small photo album with a water-stained cover, and a folded envelope with a rubber band around it. Cole set the envelope aside and opened the photo album first. The pictures were small and slightly blurry, the kind taken on a cheap camera years ago. A young couple standing beside a broken-down car on the side of a highway. A woman with dark hair and tired eyes holding a bundled baby. A man with sawdust on his shirt grinning outside what looked like a small garage with a hand-painted sign above the door. Cole leaned closer. The sign said, "Carter Family Repair." He sat back. He turned to the next page. The twins, just born, sleeping in a hospital room, then older, then birthday candles, then missing front teeth and gap-filled smiles, an entire life built page by page. He turned back to the very first picture, the broken-down car on the side of the highway. He stared at it for a long time. Something was scratching at the back of his mind, a memory trying to pull itself up through years of others. He picked up the envelope and slid off the rubber band. Inside was a letter. Not the one the police had already found. This one was different. The handwriting was small and careful, like someone had taken their time. It was addressed to him. "Dear Cole, we have been looking for you for 7 years." Cole set the letter down. He picked up his cold coffee and took a long sip. Then he picked the letter back up. "We never forgot what you did for us. We never stopped trying to say thank you. Nobody we asked seemed to know how to find you until we heard your name mentioned at a roadside shop outside of Millard Creek last spring. By then, so much had already happened. We had so much to tell you. You probably do not even remember us. A young couple with a blown radiator and a baby named Noah who would not stop crying. It was the worst night of either of our lives. Daniel had lost his job that morning. We had less than $12 between us. We did not know what we were going to do. Then you stopped." Cole read that line again. "You fixed the car. You fed us at that diner down the road and you would not let us say no. You paid for everything and you would not take a cent back. But the biggest thing, the thing we have never forgotten, was the man you called. The mechanic in Deary who needed help in his shop. You told Daniel to call him. You said to use your name. Daniel called him the next morning. He got the job. And because he got that job, I was finally able to finish nursing school. Cole stared at the page. He remembered the mechanic. Old guy named Ruiz. Had a shop off the county road and was always short-handed. Cole had passed his number along to people more than once over the years, without thinking much of it. He had not remembered Daniel Carter. Not by name, not by face, but someone remembered him. Daniel built Carter Family Repair from the ground up. He has 11 employees now. I finished my nursing degree, and I work at the county hospital. We built a life, Cole. A real life. And it started with you. Cole put the letter down on the table. He pressed both hands flat against the wood. Outside, the wind moved quietly through the trees. Inside, the house was still. He sat there for a long time in the silence. The next morning, Noah found it. Cole had been making eggs at the stove when he heard the boy call out from the hallway. Not a scared call. More like the kind a kid makes when they stumble onto something unexpected. "Cole, come look at this." Cole turned off the burner and walked over. Noah was crouched down near the bottom of the coat closet beside the front door. He had been looking for his left shoe, which had gone missing the night before. But instead of the shoe, he had found a loose panel at the back of the closet wall. It was a small square of drywall, about the size of a shoebox, set slightly apart from the rest. You would never notice it unless you were already down on the floor looking for something else. Cole knelt beside him. "Did you move it?" Cole asked. "No," Noah said. "I just saw the gap." Cole pressed his fingers against the panel. It shifted easily. He pulled it free and set it aside. Behind it was a metal box, dark gray, about the size of a large book. It had a simple latch with no lock. Cole looked at it for a moment. Then he looked at Noah. "Go get your sister," Cole said quietly. Lily appeared in the hallway 30 seconds later in her pajamas, her hair still messy from sleep. Her eyes went straight to the box. Nobody spoke. Cole carried the box to the kitchen table. The three of them sat down together. He set it in the center between the salt shaker and the cold cup of coffee he had not touched yet. Noah looked at Lily. Lily looked at Cole. "Okay," Cole said. "Let's see what's inside." He opened the latch and lifted the lid. Inside was a tablet computer wrapped carefully in a thick cloth. Beneath it sat a folded piece of paper and a small charging cable coiled up tight. The tablet had been protected well. The cloth was thick and dry and had kept everything safe. Cole unfolded the paper first. It said, "For Lily and Noah. Press play. We love you more than you will ever know." The handwriting was the same careful, small script from the letter the night before. Lily made a small sound. She pressed her lips together and did not say anything. Cole picked up the tablet and connected the charging cable to the wall. The screen blinked on almost immediately. The battery still had some life in it. There was only one folder on the home screen. It was labeled with a single word: Kids. Cole turned the tablet so both children could see it clearly. He sat back just slightly, giving them the space but staying close enough that they could feel him there. Noah reached forward and opened the folder. Inside were 11 video files. Each one had a name. For your birthday. When you feel scared. When you miss us. The story of how we met. And then, near the bottom of the list, one that made Cole go very still. It was labeled, "Who is Cole Walker and Why We Trust Him." The twins both looked up at him at the same time. Cole did not say anything for a moment. He just looked at the screen. Then he looked at them. "You want to watch that one?" he asked. Lily nodded right away. Noah nodded a second later, a little slower, like he was bracing himself for something important. Cole pressed play. The screen filled with the image of a woman sitting at a kitchen table. Dark hair, tired eyes that still smiled anyway. Emily Carter looked directly into the camera like she was looking straight through the screen and into the room. Beside her sat a man with sawdust on his collar and a careful, quiet expression. Daniel. They were holding hands on the table. Emily took a breath and started speaking. "If you are watching this," she said softly, "then Cole found you, just like we knew he would." Cole let the twins watch 2 more videos that morning. Not the one about him. Not yet. He was not ready for that, and he did not think they were either. Instead, they watched the one labeled "When You Feel Scared," and then the one called "The Story of How We Met." Both of them sat close together on the couch, with the tablet propped against a pillow, and Cole stayed nearby without hovering. He could hear Emily's voice drifting from the small speaker. Warm and steady. He did not catch every word, but he caught enough. After lunch, once both kids were settled with books and the space heater was running in the living room, Cole sat down at the kitchen table with his phone and the folded documents Jake had brought over the day before. Jake had done some digging. He was good at that. Quiet, patient, the kind of guy who knew people in places others forgot existed. The name Richard Hale appeared on 3 of the pages. Cole spread them out and read carefully. Hale was a local businessman. He owned a property company that had been buying up land along the edge of town for several years. Small parcels, mostly. Old farms, vacant lots, a few residential properties that had fallen behind on payments. The Carter family's land sat right in the middle of it. According to the documents Jake had pulled from public records, Hale had filed a legal claim against the Carter property 8 months ago. The claim said that Daniel Carter had failed to complete a payment agreement tied to the original purchase of the land. Cole read that part twice. He pulled out the copy of Daniel's own records, which had been tucked inside the metal box along with the tablet. Daniel had kept everything. Every receipt, every payment confirmation, every letter. The payments had been made, every single one. On time. Cole set the 2 sets of papers side by side and looked at them. Hale's claim said Daniel missed 3 consecutive payments. Daniel's records showed every one of those same payments confirmed and cleared. Somebody was lying, and it was not Daniel Carter. Cole leaned back in his chair. He rubbed the back of his neck and stared at the ceiling for a moment. He had seen this kind of thing before. Not with paperwork, but with people. Someone with money and lawyers and a long reach deciding that what belonged to someone else should belong to them instead. Pressing until the other person either gave up or ran out of ways to fight back. Daniel had not given up. Cole found the next document near the bottom of the pile. It was a printed email chain that Jake had tracked down through a contact at the county office. The emails were between Hale's property company and a local title agency. One line near the middle of the chain stopped Cole cold. "Accelerate the filing. The Carters are gathering documentation. We need this resolved before they present anything formal." Cole read it again. Daniel and Emily had not just been trying to hold on to their land. They had been building a case, collecting proof, putting together every piece of paper and record they could find to show that Hale's claim was built on false information. And someone had known they were doing it. Cole set the email printout down slowly. He thought about the letter, about the emergency plan Daniel and Emily had put together before they disappeared. The hidden box, the tablet, the instructions about finding him. They had not disappeared because they panicked. They had disappeared because they were close to finishing what they started, because they were heading somewhere to get the last piece of proof they needed, and because they knew if something went wrong on the way, their children would need someone trustworthy waiting on the other side. Cole gathered all the documents into a careful stack and held them together with both hands. Daniel and Emily Carter had not run from trouble. They had walked straight toward it for their family, for their land, and for the truth. And now they were missing because of it. The next 2 days moved in a quiet rhythm. Cole made breakfast each morning before the twins woke up. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice in the 2 mismatched cups he found at the back of the cabinet. He was not a great cook, but he was a consistent one, and consistency was what the kids needed right now. Noah started coming out to the garage in the afternoons. It began small. The boy would lean in the doorway with his hands in his pockets, watching Cole work on his bike. Cole never pushed him to come closer or asked him questions. He just worked and let Noah decide when he was ready. On the second day, Noah walked all the way inside and crouched down beside the motorcycle without saying a word. Cole handed him a wrench. Noah held it carefully, like it meant something. "You turn it left to loosen, right to tighten," Cole said. Noah nodded. "Dad told me that." "Smart man, your dad." Noah did not say anything after that, but he stayed for 2 hours. Lily was different. She talked more, asked questions about everything, and seemed to study Cole the way a person studies a painting they cannot quite figure out. She would watch him from across the room with those calm brown eyes, and then say something that caught him completely off guard. That afternoon she had looked up from her book and said, "You hum when you think." Cole blinked. "Do I?" "Yeah. Low and quiet. Like you don't know you're doing it." He had no idea what to say to that, so he just nodded and went back to reading through the documents. But he caught himself smiling a few seconds later. They needed groceries by the 3rd morning. Cole loaded the twins into Jake's truck, which Jake had left for him while he ran around following up on leads. The grocery store sat in the middle of town, a squat brick building with a hand-painted sign and a parking lot that always seemed half full no matter the time of day. Cole walked in with a twin on each side of him and a list in his hand. He felt the looks right away. People slowed down. Carts stopped moving. A woman near the bread aisle watched them over her shoulder for a long time. Cole kept walking. He checked the list. He asked Lily if she liked apple juice or grape juice better. She said both. He put in both. Noah spotted a box of crackers with a dog on the front and looked up with that careful, hopeful look. Cole put those in the cart, too, without making a thing of it. By the time they reached the checkout line, something had shifted in the store. Cole could feel it but could not explain it exactly. The looks were still there, but they were different now. Less guarded. A man in a flannel shirt gave him a small nod. A teenage girl at the register smiled at Lily when she set a box of crackers on the belt. It was not much, but it was something. They were loading the bags into the truck when Cole heard someone behind him. "Excuse me." He turned around. An older woman stood a few feet away. She had white hair tucked under a wool hat and wore a coat with large buttons down the front. Her hands were folded together in front of her like she was working up to something difficult. Cole recognized her. He had seen her in town before. She had once crossed to the other side of the street when she saw him coming. "I owe you an apology," she said. Her voice was steady but soft, like someone who had practiced the words and meant every one of them. "I made up my mind about you a long time ago." She glanced at the twins, then back at Cole. "I was wrong to do that. What I've seen these past few days." She paused and pressed her lips together. "Well, It doesn't match the story I told myself about you." Cole looked at her for a moment. "Martha Collins," she added, like she owed him her name along with the apology. Martha Collins held out her hand. Cole shook it. Her grip was firm for someone her size. She looked him square in the eyes when she did it, the kind of look that said she meant what she said, and was not going to take it back. "Thank you," Cole said. It was all he had. Martha gave a small nod, glanced once more at the twins with something warm in her expression, and walked back toward the store. Lily watched her go. "Who was that?" "Someone being brave," Cole said. He lifted the last grocery bag into the truck and helped Lily up into the seat. The ride back was quiet. Noah stared out the window at the snow-covered fields rolling past. Lily hummed something low and tuneless. Cole kept his hands on the wheel and his eyes on the road and let the quiet be what it was. It was a good morning. He should have known it would not last. By afternoon, the calls started. Jake was the first one to get word. He showed up at Cole's door just before 4 o'clock, with his jaw set tight, and his eyes carrying something Cole did not like seeing there. "There's talk going around," Jake said. Cole stepped aside to let him in. The twins were in the back room. Cole could hear the low sound of a cartoon playing on the small television he had set up for them. "What kind of talk?" Jake pulled off his knit cap and held it in both hands. "Richard Hale. He's been making the rounds, talking to people at the diner, at the hardware store." He paused. "He's telling people you took the kids." Cole went very still. "He's saying you found them because you knew where they were, that you've been using them to make yourself look good." Jake's voice stayed flat, but his eyes were angry. "He told at least 3 people that he thinks you had something to do with Daniel and Emily disappearing." Cole did not say anything for a long moment. Outside, the wind pushed against the windows. The cartoon kept playing in the back room. Somewhere in there, Noah and Lily were sitting safe and warm, not knowing that a man who had never met them was doing his best to take that away. "Who's listening to him?" Cole asked. "Enough people." Jake set his cap on the counter. "He's got a lawyer making calls, too. Put pressure on the department. Said there were questions about how you came to find the kids and why they were left specifically for you." Cole pressed a hand flat against the counter and looked down at it. He had known this might come. He had felt it sitting at the edges of things since the night he carried those 2 kids through the broken window of the diner. A man like him did not get to be the hero without someone making noise about it. He just had not expected it to hit this fast. "They're reopening the investigation," Jake said quietly. The knock on the door came just after 6. 2 officers stood on the porch. One of them Cole recognized from the night he found the twins. The other was a woman he had not seen before. She had a badge on her coat and a careful, neutral expression. "Mr. Walker," the first officer said, "we need to speak with you." The conversation was short. There had been complaints filed, questions raised. Until the matter was reviewed, the children needed to be placed with a licensed temporary care provider. Cole stood in the doorway and listened. Behind him, he heard small footsteps. Lily appeared at his side and looked up at the 2 officers. Her face went pale when she understood what was happening. "No," she said. Just that one small word. Noah appeared a second later. He did not say anything. He just moved close to Cole and stood there. Cole crouched down in front of them both. His chest felt like something heavy had been set on it. He kept his voice as steady as he could manage. "It's going to be okay," he said. He wanted to believe it. 30 minutes later, the truck pulled out of the driveway. Cole stood on the porch in the cold and watched until the taillights disappeared into the dark. His hands hung at his sides. The night was silent around him. He had never felt so alone. Cole did not sleep. He sat at the kitchen table for a long time after the truck disappeared. The house was too quiet. The small television in the back room had gone dark. The 2 cups he had set out for the twins' hot chocolate that morning were still on the counter, rinsed but not put away. He stared at them for a while. Then he picked up his phone. By 8 o'clock the next morning, Cole was sitting inside the sheriff's department on a hard plastic chair, waiting. He had called ahead. He had asked for the right person. He had not shown up loud or angry or ready to fight. He had shown up with a folder of every document he had, every receipt, every record, every note the hospital had given him the night he brought the twins in from the cold. The investigator assigned to the case was a woman named Detective Sarah Pruitt. She was in her late 30s, with sharp eyes and a calm way of moving that told Cole she had seen a lot and was not easily impressed. She shook his hand and led him to a small room with a table and 2 chairs. Cole set the folder down. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said. "I'm here because those kids deserve better than what's happening right now." Detective Pruitt opened the folder and started reading. Cole talked. He told her everything from the beginning. The night he found the twins. The way they were holding hands. What they said about their parents. The letter. The videos. What he remembered about Daniel and Emily from years ago. He did not leave anything out. He did not try to make himself sound like a good man. He just told the truth and let it sit there between them. When he finished, Pruitt looked up from the folder. "You've had that letter this whole time," she said. "Yes," Cole said, "and the videos." "Yes." She studied him for a moment. "Why didn't you come in sooner with all of this?" "Because I was focused on the kids," Cole said. "Making sure they were warm, making sure they ate, making sure they weren't scared every time they closed their eyes." He paused. "I should have come sooner." "I know that." Pruitt did not react right away. She looked back at the folder and turned another page. Cole sat still and let her read. "It took 2 more days. Jake came through during that time. He tracked down the mechanic who had first given Daniel a job all those years ago, a quiet older man named Pete, who remembered Cole bringing the young couple to his shop. Pete did not hesitate when asked to make a statement. He said Cole had shown up with a young family on a bad day and asked him to help them get on their feet. That was exactly what Cole had told the detective. Martha Collins also came forward. She called the department on her own and told them what she had seen. She said Cole had walked through that store with those children and treated them with gentleness and care from the moment they stepped inside. She said she had watched him the whole time. Her words carried weight. The detective had also pulled the security footage from the diner the night Cole found the twins. The footage showed what it showed. A man stopping his motorcycle in a snowstorm, carrying 2 small children inside, staying beside them without leaving. The pieces all pointed the same direction. On the 3rd morning, Detective Pruitt called Cole directly. "Come to the community center on Maple," she said. 10 o'clock. Cole was there at 9:45. When the door opened and the twins walked through it, Lily saw him first. She made a small sound and ran straight across the room without slowing down. Cole dropped to one knee and caught her. She wrapped both arms around his neck and held on tight. Noah was only a step behind. He did not run, but he moved fast. He grabbed Cole's arm and leaned into him and did not let go. Cole closed his eyes. He pressed one hand to the back of Lily's head and kept the other firm on Noah's shoulder and just held them there. "I told you," he said quietly, his voice rough at the edges. It was going to be okay. The reunion at the community center lasted a long time. Nobody rushed it. A caseworker named Ms. Vega sat quietly at a nearby table and gave them space. She had kind eyes and did not try to fill the silence with words. She just let Cole hold the twins for as long as they needed. Eventually, Lily pulled back and looked at Cole's face the way she always did, like she was checking to make sure he was really there. "You came," she said. "Told you I would," Cole said. Noah had not let go of Cole's arm yet. Cole did not mention it. The investigation was still moving. Detective Pruitt had made that clear on the phone. The twins being returned to Cole's temporary care was not the end of anything. It was just the part where the truth started catching up. Richard Hale had covered his tracks carefully. That much was obvious. The legal pressure he had placed on Daniel and Emily's property had been run through a web of paperwork and borrowed names. On the surface, it looked like a routine dispute, a boundary claim, a clerical issue buried in county records going back 30 years. But Daniel had known better, and Daniel had not left empty-handed. Cole got the call from Jake 2 days after the twins came home. "Pete's nephew works in county records," Jake said. "He remembers a man coming in about 18 months ago asking questions about the Carter property. Paid cash for copies of the original deed filings." "That man got a name?" Cole asked. "Not one he used himself," Jake said, "but Pete's nephew kept the sign-in log from that day. He kept it because something felt off about the visit." Cole was quiet for a moment. "Can he bring it in?" "Already on his way." The next morning felt like the whole thing was shifting. Cole sat at Detective Pruitt's office alongside Jake, Pete, and Pete's nephew, a nervous young man named Marcus, who kept smoothing the front of his jacket. Pruitt had 2 other investigators in the room. One of them was taking notes on a laptop without looking up. Marcus set the sign-in log on the table. The name written in faded ink was a company name. Not a person. A company called Hale Property Solutions, LLC. Pruitt looked at it for a long moment. Then she looked at Cole. "That's one piece," she said. "There's more," Cole said. He had spent the night before going back through everything Daniel and Emily had left behind. Not just the letter, not just the videos. He had gone through the small fireproof box Emily had packed alongside the children's bag. He had looked at every single piece of paper inside it. Daniel had been thorough. The man had spent years building a business from nothing. He knew how to keep records. Cole laid out a sequence of documents on Pruitt's table: the original property deed in Daniel's name, a series of letters from a law office connected to Hale Property Solutions, LLC, each one pushing a different version of the boundary claim with slightly changed language. A printed email exchange between Daniel and a county official that showed someone had attempted to backdate an amendment to the original land survey. And at the bottom of the stack, a single handwritten note in Daniel's careful printing. It listed 3 dates, 3 names, and 1 sentence at the bottom. "These men were paid to sign documents they never read. I have their statements recorded." Pruitt picked up the note and read it twice. The investigator on the laptop stopped typing. The room got very quiet. "He recorded statements," Pruitt said. It was not quite a question. "Emily's bag had a small digital recorder wrapped in a sock," Cole said. "I didn't listen to it. I brought it here instead." He set the recorder on the table. Pruitt looked at it. Then she looked at Cole with something new behind her eyes. Not suspicion, not doubt. Something that looked a lot like relief. "Mr. Walker," she said slowly, "I think Daniel Carter built himself a very strong case." The call came on a Thursday morning. Cole was in the garage with Noah when his phone buzzed on the workbench. Noah had been handing him tools one by one, taking the job seriously the way he always did. He held each one out with both hands like it mattered. Cole looked at the screen. Detective Pruitt. He set down the wrench and answered. "We found the vehicle," Pruitt said. Her voice was careful. The kind of careful that meant she was choosing every word before she let it out. Cole's chest tightened. "Where?" "Remote logging road about 40 miles east of the county line. Snow covered most of it. One of the search teams spotted the rear bumper this morning when the melt started." Cole turned away from Noah, not to hide the call, just to think clearly for a second. "And?" he said. "We have rescue teams moving in now. The road is rough. It's going to take some time." She paused. "Cole, there are signs that someone was inside the vehicle recently. We don't know what we're walking into yet." He thanked her and ended the call. Noah was watching him from beside the tool chest. His small face was still. His eyes were steady, the way they got when he already suspected something important was happening. "Did they find them?" Noah asked. Cole walked back over and crouched down so they were eye level. "They found their car," Cole said. "They're sending people out there right now." Noah nodded slowly. He did not ask the next question out loud, but Cole could see it sitting right behind his eyes. "We don't know anything else yet," Cole said. "We wait." Waiting was the hardest thing. Cole brought both twins into the living room and let the morning stretch out slowly. Lily sat on the couch with a blanket pulled around her shoulders. She was not reading. She was not watching anything on the small television. She just sat with her knees pulled up and stared at the middle of the room. Noah sat on the floor, near the window. Every few minutes he looked outside, like he expected someone to pull up the drive with answers. Cole made food neither of them touched. He made coffee for himself and let it go cold. He sat in the chair near the door and kept his phone face up on the armrest. Hours passed. The afternoon light came in low through the windows and stretched across the floor in long, pale strips. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch at some point. Noah had moved from the window to the floor beside the chair where Cole sat, close enough that his shoulder was pressed against Cole's leg. Cole did not move. He kept his hand resting lightly on the boy's shoulder and watched the phone. It buzzed at 3:20. Cole answered before the second buzz finished. "We reached the vehicle," Pruitt said. "Cole, they were inside." The breath left him. "They're alive," she said quickly. "Both of them. But they are in very bad shape. We are airlifting them to County General right now. They're unconscious. The medical team is calling it critical." Cole closed his eyes for 1 second. Alive? They were alive. But the word critical sat in his stomach like a stone. "How bad?" he asked quietly. "Bad enough that we can't promise anything yet," Pruitt said. "I'm sorry. That's all I have right now." He thanked her and set the phone down. Noah had not moved, but he was looking up at Cole now with wide, dark eyes. He had heard enough. Maybe not every word, but enough to know. Lily stirred on the couch, blinking, sensing the change in the room the way she always did. "They found them," Cole said. His voice was steady. He made sure of that. "Your mom and dad are alive." Lily sat up fast. Relief crossed her face for one bright moment. Then Noah asked the question neither of them could hold back any longer. "Are they going to be okay?" Cole looked at both of them, their faces open and scared and full of hope all at once. He did not have the answer they needed, and they could see that. Lily pressed her hand over her mouth. Noah turned away toward the window. His small shoulders began to shake. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty at that hour. A few scattered cars sat under pale yellow lights. The night air was cold and sharp. the kind of cold that crept under your collar no matter how you tried to keep it out. Cole sat on a wooden bench near the main entrance with his elbows on his knees and his hands hanging loose between them. He had been sitting there for a long time. Inside, Daniel and Emily Carter were somewhere down a hallway Cole was not allowed to walk. The doctors had used words he mostly understood, and some he did not. Words like internal bleeding and hypothermia and low blood pressure. Words that sounded careful and serious in the way that made your stomach drop. The twins were inside, too, in a small family waiting room with Jake. Jake had driven up an hour after Cole called him, walked in without a word, and sat down next to the kids like it was the most natural thing in the world. That was Jake. No drama. Just there. Cole was grateful for that. But he could not sit in that waiting room anymore. He needed air. He needed the cold and the quiet and the dark. He pressed his hands together and stared at the ground. The question that had been sitting at the back of his mind all day had finally moved to the front. It was not asking politely anymore. Who was he to these kids? He had found them in the snow. He had kept them warm and fed and safe while the world sorted itself out. He had done what needed doing because that was what he knew how to do. But that was different from what they needed now. They needed someone to tell them their parents were going to be okay. He could not do that. They needed someone who knew how to hold a scared child while she cried and find the right words to make it mean something. He was not sure he knew how to do that either. He thought about the videos Daniel and Emily had recorded, their voices steady and full of love, saying his name like it was something solid they could hand their children to hold on to. They had trusted him before he ever knew it. They had built a plan around a man they had not seen in nearly a decade. What if they were wrong? What if the man who fixed their car and gave them a few dollars was not the same man sitting on this bench right now? What if Cole Walker at 35 had something in him that Cole Walker at 45 had slowly let go? He had spent so many years telling himself he was better off alone. And maybe that had been true for him. But these kids were not alone by choice. They were alone because life had taken a sharp and terrible turn. And they were counting on him to stand in the gap. He was not sure he was big enough for that. The bench shifted slightly beside him. Cole looked up. An elderly woman had sat down at the far end. She wore a heavy gray coat and a knit scarf the color of cream. Her white hair was tucked under a wool hat. Her face was lined and quiet, and she had the look of someone who had spent a great many hours in hospital waiting rooms. He recognized her from town. Martha Collins. She had walked past him more than once on the main street without so much as a glance. He had noticed, the way he always noticed, and had not taken it personally. She was looking at him now, though, not with fear, not with judgment, with something softer than either of those things. "You're the one who found those children," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, ma'am," Cole said. She folded her hands in her lap. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I have thought poorly of you for a long time, based on nothing more than what you look like." She paused. "That was wrong of me." Cole did not say anything. He just listened. "Those parents chose you," she said simply. "Out of everyone in this world, they chose you. Not because you were perfect." She looked at him steadily. "Because you stayed. Every time. You stayed." Her words landed somewhere deep and quiet inside him. And for the first time all night, the question in his chest grew a little smaller. The days blurred together. Cole learned the rhythm of the hospital the way he learned everything else, by paying attention, by showing up and watching and figuring out what was needed. He learned which nurses came on shift at 6 in the morning and which ones came at 2 in the afternoon. He learned that the vending machine near the elevator gave you an extra few seconds to grab 2 bags of chips if you pushed the button just right. He learned that the family waiting room had a drafty corner near the window, and he moved the twins' chairs away from it on the second morning without making a big deal about it. Noah noticed. He always noticed things like that. He did not say much. He just watched Cole with steady, careful eyes the way a kid watches someone they are still deciding about. And slowly, without either of them making any big announcements about it, the deciding seemed to tip in one direction. By the third day, Noah was sitting close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Lily was different. Lily did not do anything slowly. She had climbed into the chair beside Cole on the first morning, pulled a thin hospital blanket over both their laps without asking, and fallen asleep leaning against his arm. Cole had sat very still for almost 2 hours because he did not want to wake her. Jake had watched all of this from across the room with a quiet expression and the good sense not to say a word. The mornings were the hardest. That was when the twins woke up and remembered all over again where they were and why. Cole could see it happen. The few seconds of soft, half-awake calm before memory came rushing back in. And then Lily's eyes would fill up, and Noah would go very quiet and look at his hands. Cole made sure there was breakfast waiting before either of them fully woke. Something warm, something real. He brought it from the diner 2 blocks down the street because hospital food had the look of something that had given up trying. He sat with them while they ate. He did not push them to talk. He did not fill up the silence with things that were not true. He just stayed. Sometimes Lily talked about her mom. Small things. The way Emily hummed while she cooked. The smell of her sweater. Cole listened to every word like it was the most important thing he had ever heard, because right then it was. Sometimes Noah asked questions about the motorcycle, how fast it went, whether it was hard to learn. Cole answered every single one. Carefully, honestly. He could see that the questions were not really about the motorcycle. They were about something else, something that felt safer to come at sideways. They were allowed brief visits to Daniel and Emily's rooms, supervised, quiet, just a few minutes each time. The twins would stand very close to the beds and hold their parents' hands and talk softly, telling them about the breakfast they ate, telling them they were okay, telling them to come back. Cole stood near the door during those visits, far enough to give them space, close enough that they could look up and see him standing there, and every time, they did look up. First Lily, then Noah, and every time Cole gave them a small nod that said what he could not say out loud. I am still here. On the 4th afternoon, one of the doctors came to the waiting room and asked to speak with Cole. The doctor was a younger man with tired eyes and a measured way of speaking. Mr. Walker, he said, I wanted to let you know that both Mr. and Mrs. Carter are showing signs of improvement. Their vitals are stabilizing. They are still unconscious, but the trajectory is encouraging. Cole breathed out slowly. The twins were standing beside him. They had heard. Lily grabbed Cole's hand with both of hers. Noah stood very straight, his jaw tight, fighting hard to hold himself together. Cole crouched down so he was at eye level with both of them. You hear that? He said quietly. They are fighting. Both of them. Lily nodded fast, tears sliding down her cheeks. Are they going to wake up? Noah asked. His voice was steady, but barely. Cole looked at both of them. I believe they are, he said. And while we wait, we keep believing that together, okay? Noah held his gaze for a moment. Then he nodded once. Lily squeezed Cole's hand tighter, and the 3 of them stood there together in the middle of that quiet hallway, holding on to that small but solid piece of hope. It was early. The hallway outside Daniel's room was quiet. The overnight nurses moved in soft, careful steps, and the hospital had that particular stillness that only exists in the hours before the rest of the world wakes up. Cole had sent Jake back to the motel with the twins around 10 the night before. Lily had fallen asleep in her chair, and Noah had been fighting it hard, blinking slow and heavy, refusing to give in. Cole had promised them both he would stay, that he would be right there. He always kept his promises. So he sat beside Daniel's bed in a chair that was too small for a man his size, his forearms resting on his knees, his eyes moving between Daniel's face and the soft green lines tracing across the monitor beside the bed. The room smelled like antiseptic and something faintly medicinal. The only light came from the hallway and the faint glow of the machines. Cole had not slept much. That was nothing new. He had spent the quiet hours doing what he always did when the world went still around him. He thought. He turned things over. He remembered the young couple on the side of the road all those years ago. The broken-down car. The baby crying softly in the back seat. Emily's exhausted face. Daniel's proud, desperate eyes. The way Daniel had tried twice to refuse the money before finally accepting it. Cole had not thought about that day in years. Not because it did not matter, but because he had long since decided that those moments were not about him. You helped someone. You moved on. That was how it worked. Except Daniel had not moved on. Daniel had carried it with him, built a life from it, trusted it enough to stake his children's safety on it. Cole rubbed a hand slowly over his face. He was still sitting with that thought when he heard it. A small sound. A breath that changed. He looked up. Daniel's hand moved first, just slightly, a slow curl of his fingers against the blanket. Then his head turned, just barely, toward the light from the hallway. Cole sat forward. Daniel. His voice came out low and steady. Daniel, can you hear me? Daniel's eyes opened. They were unfocused at first, glazed and slow, moving in that uncertain way of someone coming back from a very long distance. Cole watched him take in the ceiling, the lights, the machines. Then Daniel turned his head toward the chair, toward Cole. For a moment he just looked. His breathing was slow and shallow. His face was pale and drawn. But something in his eyes was working. Something was searching, finding. And then something settled. His cracked lips moved. Cole leaned in close to hear him. Cole. The word came out rough and barely there, like the first sound from a radio finding its signal. But it was clear. It was certain. Cole's chest tightened. Yeah, he said quietly. It's me. I'm here. Daniel's eyes stayed on him. He swallowed with effort. His hand moved slowly across the blanket, reaching. Cole reached back without thinking. He took Daniel's hand in both of his. Daniel's grip was weak but deliberate. The kids, Daniel said. Each word cost him something. Lily. Noah. They are safe, Cole said. His voice was firm. They are healthy. They are sleeping right now, but they are okay. I promise you, they are okay. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. A long, slow breath moved through him, and something in his face changed. The tightness eased. The fear released. When he opened his eyes again, they were wet. I knew, Daniel whispered. His grip on Cole's hand tightened slightly. I knew you would find them. Cole could not speak for a moment. 4 words. Just 4 words. But they landed somewhere deep, somewhere that had been hollow and quiet for a very long time. The place where Cole had buried the belief that anyone truly saw him. The place he had stopped expecting anyone to reach. His eyes burned. He did not look away. Daniel did not talk much that first morning. He drifted in and out, pulled back under by exhaustion and medication before he could string more than a few sentences together. The nurses came and went. A doctor reviewed his charts and spoke in careful, measured tones about progress and patience and time. Cole stayed. 2 days later, Emily woke up. It happened in the afternoon, while Lily was sitting beside her bed, holding her hand and telling her about the diner where Cole had found them, about the blankets, about the way he had stayed through the whole cold night without leaving once. Emily's fingers moved first. Lily froze. Then she shot up straight and called out into the hallway so loud that Noah came running from Daniel's room down the hall with Cole right behind him. By the time Cole reached the doorway, Emily's eyes were open, and Lily was already crying into her shoulder. Cole stopped in the doorway. He watched Noah climb carefully onto the edge of the bed and press his face against his mother's arm. He watched Emily's hands come up slowly, trembling, and hold both of them at once. He did not go in right away. Some moments were not his to step into. He leaned his shoulder against the doorframe and let the family have what they had almost lost. His jaw was tight. His eyes were steady. But something behind them was not. He stayed right there, in case they needed him. And by the end of the week, both Daniel and Emily were strong enough to sit up and speak with the investigators who had been working the case. A detective named Ruiz had been following the trail of Richard Hale's property scheme for weeks, and now he sat at the foot of Daniel's bed with a notepad and quiet, patient eyes. Cole stood near the window. He had been asked to stay. Daniel spoke first. His voice was still rough at the edges, but it was steady. "We found out about 3 months ago," he said. "Richard Hale had been working with a county clerk to push through a false title transfer on our land. Backdated documents, the kind of thing that looks legal until someone actually digs into it." Emily picked up the thread from her bed down the hall, connected by phone so both could speak at once. "We had copies of the original deed," she said. "And Daniel found a paper trail showing Hale had done it to 2 other families before us, quietly. So quietly no one ever noticed." Daniel nodded slowly. "We knew what we were walking into when we went to the county records office. We knew Hale had people watching him, protecting him." He paused. "So before we left, we made a plan." Detective Ruiz looked up from his notes. "And the plan involved Cole Walker." "Yes," Daniel said. He glanced toward Cole at the window. "Cole was the only person I trusted completely, not because of anything he said, because of what he did years ago, when he had no reason to help us and he helped us anyway." He stopped. "A man like that does not change into something dangerous. A man like that is exactly who you want watching over your kids." Cole said nothing. He looked out the window at the parking lot below. The gray afternoon sky. A crow sitting on a light post. His throat was tight. "We recorded everything we found," Emily continued. "The documents, the timeline. We gave copies to an attorney and hid another set in the diner where we told the kids to wait. We knew if something happened to us, the evidence would surface eventually." It did. Detective Ruiz worked with state authorities, and within days of Daniel and Emily's statements, the records were pulled. The false title transfer was traced directly to Richard Hale and the county clerk he had been paying for years. Hale was arrested on a Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, every person in town knew. The story moved fast. The local paper ran it on the front page. People talked in parking lots and over counters and through open car windows. And buried inside every version of the story was the same truth. Cole Walker had never been the danger. He had been the only reason those children were still alive. Cole started packing on a Sunday. It was quiet work, the kind of work he knew well. He folded his spare flannel shirt and tucked it into his saddlebag. He checked the oil on his motorcycle and topped it off in the parking lot of the motel, where he had been staying since the twins came into his life. He tightened a loose bolt on the rear fender and stood back and looked at the bike for a long moment. It was ready. He told himself he was too. The past several weeks had been something he did not have a word for. He had sat in hospital hallways and eaten vending machine sandwiches and helped Noah with a puzzle on a waiting room floor. He had listened to Lily tell stories that went on longer than they needed to, and made him smile anyway. He had watched two people he barely remembered come back from the edge of something terrible. He had done what he came to do. That was enough. That was what he told himself. He stopped by the hospital that afternoon to say goodbye. He kept it simple in his head. A few words, a nod. He would not make it into a bigger thing than it was. Daniel was sitting up in bed when Cole walked in. He looked better. Some color had come back into his face. He was reading something on a tablet Noah had brought him, and when he looked up and saw Cole standing in the doorway with his jacket on and his keys in his hand, he went very still. He understood immediately. "You are leaving," Daniel said. "You do not need me anymore," Cole said. "You got Emily back. You got the kids. Hale is done." He shrugged one shoulder. "You are good." Daniel set the tablet down on the blanket beside him. He looked at Cole the way a person looks at someone who is about to make a mistake and does not know it yet. "Sit down, Cole." Cole stayed where he was. "Please," Daniel said. Cole sat down in the chair beside the bed. He rested his hands on his knees and looked at the floor. The tile was clean and white and said nothing helpful. Emily appeared in the doorway a minute later, moving carefully, one hand on the frame for balance. She was still recovering, still slow on her feet, but her eyes were sharp and warm and completely clear. Lily was right behind her, and Noah slipped in after them and went to stand beside his father's bed. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Emily spoke. "We have been talking," she said. "All of us." She glanced at the twins. "Including them." Lily nodded very seriously. Noah did the same. "You keep acting like you're finished," Emily said. "Like you handed us back our lives and now your part is over." She moved carefully to the chair on the other side of the bed and sat down, facing Cole. "But that is not how this works." Cole looked up. "You are not the person who saved our children," Daniel said. "I mean, you are. But that is not all you are." He paused. "You are family. You have been family since the moment you stayed in that diner through the whole night and did not leave." "You were there before we even knew we needed you," Emily said quietly. "Years ago on the side of the road, and then again in that storm." She folded her hands in her lap. "Cole, that does not happen twice by accident." Lily crossed the room and stood right in front of Cole. She was small and serious, and she looked at him with those steady eyes that always seemed to see too much. "You are not done," she said. "You are ours." Cole looked at her. He looked at Noah. He looked at Daniel and Emily. Something inside his chest shifted. Something that had been locked up for a very long time. He did not trust his voice right away. So he just nodded once, slow and certain. He stayed. The first Saturday in March, Cole showed up at a house on the edge of town with a toolbox and 4 members of his motorcycle club behind him. The house belonged to a widow named Gertrude Yates. She was in her 70s, thin as a rail, and had been patching the same leaking roof with plastic sheeting and prayer for 3 winters. Her son lived out of state and sent money when he could, but the roof kept getting worse, and she kept saying it was fine. It was not fine. Cole had heard about it from Martha Collins, who had started talking to him regularly after everything with the twins settled down. Martha knew everybody in town, and she had opinions about all of them, but lately those opinions had shifted. She brought Cole coffee sometimes when he was working in the garage. She told him things. And one morning she mentioned Gertrude's roof in a way that was not quite asking, but was definitely hoping. Cole did not say much. He just showed up. The five of them worked through the morning while Gertrude stood on her front porch, wrapped in a quilted coat, watching with wide eyes. She kept offering to make sandwiches. Jake Morrison, who stood 6'3" and wore a worn leather vest with more patches than anyone could count, told her he would love one if she had the bread for it. She laughed and went inside, and came back with a whole plate. They ate on the porch when the work was done. Gertrude looked up at her roof, and her eyes got wet, though she would not call it crying. "I have been afraid of you boys for years," she said plainly. "I am not too proud to say it." Jake nodded. He was not offended. He had heard it his whole life. "And now?" Cole asked. Gertrude looked at him for a moment. Then she reached over and patted his hand. "Now I think I wasted a lot of good years being afraid of the wrong things," she said. That was how it started. Word moved through town the way it always does in small places. Quietly at first, then all at once. A neighbor mentioned what happened with Gertrude's roof to someone at the gas station. That person told somebody else. By the second week of March, Cole's phone had 3 messages from people asking if he and his guys could help with things. A broken porch, a flooded basement, a family on the south side of town who had been without heat for a week after their furnace quit. Cole answered every one of them. The motorcycle club had never really talked about becoming this kind of thing. There was no meeting about it, no vote, no official decision. It just became what they did on weekends. They showed up in trucks and on bikes, in their leather vests, with their tools and their coolers, and they worked. They fixed what was broken. They carried what was heavy. They stayed until the job was done. Noah started coming along on some Saturdays. He handed Cole tools and watched how things worked and asked questions that were better than most adults could come up with. Cole answered every one of them, too. The same people who had once locked their car doors when they saw Cole riding through town now waved from their driveways. The woman who had turned her back on him at the grocery store after the accusation about the twins stopped him one morning in the parking lot. She stood in front of him with her hands clasped together like she was bracing herself. "I was wrong about you," she said. "I am sorry." Cole looked at her for a moment. She meant it. He could tell. "We were all working with what we had," he said. She nodded and walked away, and Cole thought that was probably the closest thing to settled either of them was going to get. And it was enough. It was more than enough. He climbed back into his truck, where Noah was waiting with a list of addresses and a breakfast sandwich. "Ready?" Noah asked. "Yeah," Cole said. "Let's go." The diner had been sitting empty for 11 years. Cole knew that because the old sign above the door still had the original owner's name painted on it, faded down to almost nothing by wind and sun and time. The windows were boarded up. The parking lot was cracked down the middle, with weeds pushing through every split in the concrete. Someone had thrown a rock through the front glass at some point, and the broken pane had just stayed that way, dark and jagged, like a wound nobody bothered to close. It was not much to look at. But Cole stood in front of it on a cold morning in early April and thought it was just about the most important building he had ever seen. Daniel stood beside him with his hands in his jacket pockets. He was still moving carefully, still healing, still carrying the quiet weight of a man who had come very close to not coming back at all. But he was standing. He was here, and when he looked at the diner, he did not see what it was. He saw what it could be. "I want to do this," Daniel said, not asking, just saying it out loud, the way a person does when they have already made up their mind and just need to hear themselves say it. Cole nodded. Then let's do it. Emily came out of the car with Lily on her heels, both of them carrying paper cups of coffee from the gas station down the road. Emily handed one to Daniel and looked up at the building with the careful eyes of someone taking stock of a hard situation. "It needs everything," she said. "Yeah," Cole agreed. She smiled. "Good thing we know people." They started the following weekend. Cole brought the club. Daniel brought his crew from the repair shop. Emily organized everything else, which turned out to be a considerable amount of everything. She made lists and schedules and phone calls and showed up each morning with enough food to keep a small army working. Neighbors came. People who had watched from a distance for months started showing up with tools and paint and time to spare. Noah worked alongside Cole every single day he was there. He carried lumber and sorted screws and learned how to use a level without being asked twice. He was serious about it. He wanted to do it right. Lily spent most of her time with Emily, picking out paint colors and helping hang curtains in the windows once the glass was replaced. She chose yellow for the walls inside. A warm, easy yellow, the kind that makes a room feel like morning. It took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of early mornings and sore backs and sawdust in places sawdust had no business being. 6 weeks of sandwiches eaten on tailgates and bad jokes and moments of real quiet pride when a section of floor came out level or a wall finally looked straight. On the first Saturday of May, they opened the doors. Cole stood back and watched people walk inside. Families, truckers passing through, a young couple with a baby on a hip and not much else, an old man traveling alone who sat at the counter and ordered just coffee and stayed for 2 hours because somebody kept refilling his cup and talking to him like he mattered. The sign above the door was new. Second Chance Diner. Cole looked at it for a long time. He thought about a snowstorm in January. 2 small hands held tight together. A broken window and 2 frozen kids who somehow already knew his name. He thought about all the years before that, all the roads he had ridden alone, all the times he told himself it was better that way. He thought about how wrong he had been. This building had been abandoned and broken and easy to give up on, and now it was full of people and warm and lit up against the gray morning sky. Cole looked at it and understood, without anyone having to say it, that the diner was not the only thing that had been given a second chance. So had he. The snow came down soft and easy on the first anniversary. Not the kind of snow that punishes. Not the kind that bites through your jacket and turns the road into something dangerous. This was the gentle kind. The kind that floats down slow and settles quiet on everything it touches. Like the world is being tucked in for the night. Cole stood in the parking lot of the Second Chance Diner and watched it fall. Behind him, warm light spilled out through the windows. He could hear voices inside, the low, comfortable hum of people eating and talking and laughing together. Someone had put on music, something old and easy that drifted out through the walls and mixed with the cold air. But Cole was not looking at the diner right now. He was looking at the road. More specifically, he was looking at the stretch of cracked pavement just in front of the building, right where the parking lot met the shoulder. The exact spot where he had stopped his motorcycle 1 year ago tonight and seen 2 small shapes through the falling snow. He remembered it the way you remember something that changed you completely, every detail sharp and clear. The way the cold had hit him when he killed the engine. The way the wind had dropped for just a second, like the world was holding its breath. The way those 2 little hands had been locked together, tight and stubborn, refusing to let go of each other no matter what. "Uncle Cole." He turned. Noah and Lily were running toward him from the side of the building, boots kicking up little puffs of snow with every step. Lily had a red scarf wrapped twice around her neck and a smile that could light up a dark room. Noah was grinning too, which was still something that made Cole feel like the world had quietly righted itself every time he saw it. They hit him at the same time, one on each side, and Cole caught them both without thinking about it. The same way breathing happens. Natural. Easy. "Mom and Dad want a picture," Lily announced. "All of us. Out here." "Out here?" Cole looked at the sky. "It is snowing." "That is the point," she said, with the patient tone of someone explaining something very obvious. Noah nodded in agreement. "Dad said this is where it started, so this is where the picture goes." Cole looked over their heads and saw Daniel and Emily walking toward them across the parking lot. Daniel had his arm around Emily, and she was leaning into him just slightly, her cup of coffee still in her free hand. They were talking quietly to each other, just the two of them for a moment, in their own small world. Then Daniel looked up and caught Cole's eye, and he smiled. Not the polite kind of smile. The real kind. The kind that means everything is okay and I know it, and I want you to know I know it. Emily raised her coffee cup toward Cole, like a small toast. He shook his head slowly, almost to himself, and smiled back. They gathered together right there on the snowy road, right on that same piece of ground. Daniel set his phone up against the diner's old porch railing and got the timer going, then jogged back and squeezed in beside Emily. Lily planted herself directly in front of Cole and reached back to grab his arm, pulling it around her shoulders. Noah stood on his other side and straightened up a little, like he wanted to look tall for the photo. The camera clicked. Cole stood there in the snow, surrounded by all four of them, and did not move for a moment after. He looked down at Lily's red scarf, at Noah's proud posture, at Daniel and Emily still leaning together like they had grown that way. He thought about what the world had always seen when it looked at him. A Hell's Angel. A rough man in a black leather vest with a reputation that made people nervous. Someone to avoid. Someone to distrust before he even opened his mouth. The Carter family had never seen that. They had seen the man underneath it, the one who stopped when everyone else kept going, the one who stayed when it would have been easier to leave. They had seen a protector before Cole even knew that was what he was. Daniel and Emily had trusted that truth with the most precious thing they had, their children, their whole world. And somehow, that trust had quietly become his whole world too. Cole looked out at the empty road stretching away from the diner into the white distance. His motorcycle was parked at the edge of the lot, patient and familiar, dusted light with snow. He would ride soon. The open road was still part of him. That had not changed. But something else had changed. He was not riding away from anything anymore. He pulled Lily a little closer and let the snow fall around all of them, and thought that a man could spend 45 years believing he was meant to be alone, riding through dark and cold and empty roads, and still end up exactly where he was supposed to be. Cole finally had purpose. He had family. He had a second chance. And when he rode away later that evening, down the quiet road with the snow still drifting soft around him and the warm light of the diner glowing at his back, he rode as a different man than the one who had stopped here 1 year ago. He rode knowing someone was waiting for him to come home. I hope you like this story. Please share what's your favorite part of the story and where in the world you are watching from. Have a wonderful day.